Good morning. You're listening to Lindy Jones, and I just want to say a big welcome to Sunday. You were just listening to Talk About It by Brandon Murphy, and what a great way to start the day. I have to say that, again, we do appreciate that you're starting the day with us here at Rhema CC, and we hope that you're anticipating a day of joy, hope, and really all things good. But let's be real for a moment. Some of you have probably had a rough night. Perhaps you've been up with your baby or your toddler, even numerous times, and today just feels like a repeat of yesterday, maybe with even more fatigue. Perhaps you've been caring for a sick loved one this week and you're emotionally and physically exhausted. Maybe it's been financially difficult, relationally, or things just generally didn't go to plan. Perhaps you feel like you're fighting an uphill battle and the idea of doing Sunday with a smile on your face and genuine sparkle of hope in your heart just isn't going to cut it. So let us encourage you. Sunday is the promise of new beginnings. It is the start of the week, historically and from a faith standpoint, and thankfully it arrives every 7 days to remind us that we have a God who loves us in the mess and loves us when we dance in hope. Our prayer for you this morning is that regardless of where your heart is right now and your life is headed, you will be able to start this awesome day with the understanding that God promises joy in the morning. Jesus rose from the dead on a Sunday. Just let that sink in for a moment. He could have conquered death on any other day. But Sunday was the day that he chose to rise. So brush off the fatigue and take a shower. Enjoy your coffee or your tea. Maybe have some toast or some cereal. Take a walk, and as you do, say a word of silent thanks. You have a God that won't leave you in the midst of craziness, who is your calm and who is your strength. Trust him, and let's begin our Sunday with hope. Welcome back. You were just listening to Only You by Shine Bright Baby. You're joining us here at Rhema CC. I have to say again, I'm Lindy, and it is an absolute pleasure to be seeing this Sunday with you. We started earlier by discussing Sunday as the promise of a new beginning. It seems that there is debate in many circles or aspects of society when it comes to the starting day of the week. Many ask specifically whether it is a Monday or a Sunday. And according to an article posted by ABC, it was back in 2019, debate had spiralled amongst many Western Australians as radio presenters battled it out amongst themselves and their listeners. So the ultimate question, which day marks the beginning of the week? Well, in this same article, it was highlighted that the response from both pro-Sunday and pro-Monday camps came to very specific conclusions. The Monday, those who believed that Monday was the beginning of the week, pinpointed 1946 as both the establishment of something called the International Organisation for Standardisation, which was heavily influenced by industrialisation, trade and locomotive advancements. But it was also the beginning of Monday being officially noted as by international standard as the beginning day of the week. Sunday, however, has been noted as the start of the calendar week for over 5,800 years, and that's according to timeanddate.com. While it is believed that Sunday was historically recognised by Babylonians as the first day of the week, as it was the day of the sun, Christian and Jewish traditions have seen the relevance of Sunday as of high importance and have solidified its value as being the first day of the week. Now, as mentioned earlier, even the significance of Christ rising after his crucifixion on a Sunday indicates that there is significance in the role of Sunday. I could debate this topic a little bit more, but I won't be going to because it would be just going off course. Exploring the role of Sunday this morning came about as I pondered the heart of each of us as we acknowledge traditional Christian activities on a Sunday, and that's whether it's morning, afternoon or evening. Sunday tends to be our day of faith recognition. Though really we should be striving to make it every day a faith day, the world around us is more likely to see us living out our faith practices on a Sunday. That's more so than a Monday, Tuesday or any other day for that matter. Church attendance, involvement and community tends to be acknowledged more on a Sunday. Though I do have to admit that I'm married to an American from Kentucky, so I recognise that other parts of the world consider it culturally and religiously appropriate to be involved in church activities on other days too. To be honest, and this is coming from a pastor's wife, the expectation that I would need to sit through 3 church services in 1 week if I lived in another part of the world is a little mind-boggling. I don't know that I'd had the same sense of stamina required for traditional church services, But I recognise that taking time to spend with God's other children is both encouraged and requested biblically. I'm not here to preach to anyone, but I do know that we're told in the scriptures that we're expected to consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. These particular verses are found in Hebrews 10:24 to 25. My point? Meeting up with others who share our Christian faith is crucial to staying the path and cheering each other on. We need each other, even on the days that we feel like we don't. Even on the days that feel too hard, when we're sleep deprived because our kids won't rest, on the days that we're caring for sick loved ones, and on the days we don't know how we'll ever laugh again, because honestly, the tears just overwhelm us. So keep going, listeners. Recognise that Sunday is the promise of a new beginning. It is the hope that our sun will be shining regardless of the grey covering we experience from time to time. Before we go to our next segment, let me challenge you by asking these simple but telling questions. I want to ask, where's your heart on this Sunday? Are you more checked in than checked out? Or checked out than checked in with your local church? How do you feel about starting a new week with those who share your faith? And more than that, why do you feel the way you do? These are big questions, but the answers that you give may be even bigger. Let's examine that little heart of yours a little closer when we come back to you shortly. You're listening to Rhema Central Coast, and I'm Lindy. We'll be back after this. Good morning. For those of you just joining us, you're listening to Rhema Central Coast. I'm Lindy, and you've woken up on Sunday. So welcome. You've made it through yet another week, and you're standing at the doorway of yet another one. So welcome the opportunity and get excited by the promise of a new beginning. Just on that, we actually have new beginnings at 8:30 this morning for your listening. So join in further as we explore a little bit more what new beginnings is. Now, here's a verse for you that has been playing in my mind this week. Many of you will know it, but I really felt compelled to share it here today because I believe it taps into our exploration of Sunday, the idea of new beginnings, and making a conscious decision to stick with the battle and continue fighting for your personal faith. God only knows how much we can be tested on the things we believe, the values we hold, and the reasons we see the situations or scenarios that we come across exactly as we do. Because often the Christian faith doesn't make sense to those who don't believe. But when we are real with our God and we ask Him for clarity, for awareness, for a fresh way at looking at things, He'll certainly bring it. Now, I asked you earlier how your heart is. Did your answer have any connection to how you perceive the coming day? Does Sunday look too heavy or religious? Or is Sunday your opportunity to connect with God's kids and God Himself in a more formal setting? Can I ask you if you're fearful of the church? Are there aspects of the church that make you uncomfortable? Have you hesitated in attending for weeks, months, or even years because it hurts too much? Only you know the answer to those questions, but when you pray this prayer and you speak authenticity and depth, you will open up the floodgates for God's ability to move you, grow you, and eventually work through the obstacles that hinder you from enjoying every Sunday for the new beginning it offers. You can find this prayer daily in Psalm 139, 23 to 24. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Point out anything in me that offends you, and lead me along the path of everlasting life. I want to repeat those awesome words again. Psalm 139, 23 to 24. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Point out anything in me that offends you, and lead me along the path of everlasting life. What a prayer. You're listening to Rhema CC, and we'll be right back. You're back with us here at Rhema Central Coast, and it is a joy to have you with us again this morning as we all prepare for our Sunday. Isn't it fantastic that we are granted so many little life gems through this radio station? You know, we spoke before about the varying obstacles we face from time to time, the life stages that make it hard to connect with others who share our faith. And I'll be the first to admit that as a mum of 7 and a pastor's wife at that, I have been known to share my dislike for Sunday morning routines. I'd be lying if I said I didn't despise it when the kids have all decided that going to church is just not on their radar. And this is usually happening on the days when hubby has been at church since around 5:30 in the morning. It's on those days that I feel like I've been left to fend for myself. Simply, Sunday mornings are hard, but truthfully, they're worth it. So this is my encouragement to those of you this morning who are just pushing through to start the week with fresh eyes and a warrior heart. Keep going. If you've been damaged by the church, I am deeply, deeply sorry. If you're struggling to get yourself moving this morning because mental health is weighing you down, keep going. If the kids are driving you crazy and refuse to get dressed, keep going because you've got this. Take them to church in their PJs and lighten the mood. Either everyone will laugh or they'll decide that actually PJs in public isn't for them. Make light of the situation. My challenge is this. If you are struggling with the idea of connecting with other Christian believers, regardless of the reason, challenge it. If there are hurts you still need to work on before you can walk into a church, be kind to yourself. But I can guarantee there are genuine Christians who want to carry you to the cross in prayer. And it won't be for the show, but because they genuinely want to see you experience the freedom that comes with a deep, deep relationship with the Creator of all. If there are other reasons you are struggling to get to church, keep praying, but don't allow them to consume you if you can push against it. God needs and desires His people to stand firm together. How can we all do that in our own individual worlds without coming together to spend time with Him? Now, this radio station is a beautiful example of connection that can take place, but the deeper relationships, they're formed within the local church. So search your heart. What's stopping you today? Only you and God can truly explore that answer. You're listening to Rhema CC. Coming up next is Millionaire by Torrin Wells. See you soon. You were just listening to Living in Me by Michael Land. It's so good to have you here again this morning at Rhema CC. Thank you for joining us. What a beautiful Sunday morning we have, and there's so much hope that awaits for this day. We've been discussing the idea of challenging your heart this morning. You know, sometimes we can become a little displaced or out of sorts with God. Sometimes we can kind of just feel, well, blech. As a listener to this radio station myself, I have a need to flick on the radio at particular times during the day. At around 9 a.m, I'm usually dropping kids off at school or daycare, or just generally on the run. And it's when I'm doing this that I find that Family Life Today speaks to me the most. One Friday recently, I listened as I drove. I found myself nodding in agreement with so much that Anne and Dave Wilson were talking about. This is the beautiful thing about Rhema. We're given glimpses and insights into living a God-filled life in so many ways. If you don't often get a chance to listen because of life just being full or just crazy, check out the Rhema CC website for the replay each week. Anyway, back onto this particular day. The idea that we can become apathetic in our faith was explored. It resonated with me because I had been contemplating what I would bring to this show on this very Sunday. I'd been challenged with the concept of check your heart, and much of that Friday's focus on the family was about examining what is making our relationship with God dull. Is it us, or do we need to make some changes? Without going into too much detail, last year was a rough year for me. But my emptiness as a human put me in a place to seek God again with all of my heart. As my family slept, I prayed. I listened to podcasts, radio programs on replay, and played YouTube meditations that offered prayer over me as I slept. It was one of the greyest areas and times of my life, but the sense of God that surrounded me when I woke me up in lots of different ways. It allowed me to see how precious a Sunday morning is, to realign my understanding for the 7-day week. It reminded me that it really starts with Him. It allowed me to recognise the church as God intended, as a family who fight for and with one another in prayer and petition. Your church is waiting for you. You can offer so much to your church, and it is my prayer this morning that as you go about your Sunday, this very first day of the week, you can feel God's presence even more. So I pray for your courage, that you may shake things up a little and reconnect with others who share your faith. Fall in love with Jesus again. The world is waiting and watching, and they're doing so every day, Sunday, Monday, or any other. So let me ask you, who is Jesus to you? Check your heart, reconnect, and celebrate the freedom that Christ offers all of us who believe in Him and confess our sin. Celebrate the freedom that you know. You're listening to Lindy on Rhema CC, and today is a great day. Thank you for sharing this morning with me. I hope you have a fantastic Sunday.